Hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Miss Coffee here, and today we're doing a whip and chat. Whip stands for work in progress, so get out whatever that is for you. Work along with me as I tell you some stories from the coffee house shenanigans. First things first, I hope you all had a wonderful weekend and a happy Mother's Day if you are a mother that celebrates, whether that be a fur mama or a baby mama. Either way, I hope you had a great day. Mother's Day was great. I slept through it all day. As you guys know, I haven't been feeling the best. And so literally I got up out of bed and I came to the couch and Mr. Coffee's like, "Are you going to draw something?" I'm like, "I don't really feel like drawing." And he's like, "What are you going to do?" I'm like, "I don't know." I was on that, like, I literally had just woken up, got the kids their medicine, got Killian his medicine, got me my medicine, put Mr. Coffee's medicine out. And I was sitting there and I'm like, okay, I should be straight to, go sit down now. I go sit down. I'm awake maybe 30, 45 minutes, and I fall asleep. This is at like 10 o'clock in the morning. I did not wake up until 6:30. And then Mr. Coffee's like, "Are you ready for dinner?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I got to cook dinner." He's like, "No, you don't. I already cooked dinner." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." So I get up. I go eat dinner. I go sit back down on the couch. Mr. Coffee's like, "Are you going to draw now?" And I'm like, I don't know. I might draw. I'm like, "I'm still really tired." And he's like, "Oh, okay." He goes, "Well, I'm going to go take the dogs out. We'll figure out something to do when I get back." And I was like, "All right." Well, I don't remember him coming back because I fell asleep just that quickly. As soon as he left the house, as soon as the door made that click sound, I was asleep. And I slept until about midnight. Woke back up. He's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I am tired." And I'm thinking, my body just needs rest, apparently. So I slept all Mother's Day. It was the best gift ever. Uninterrupted sleep. Apparently, at some point, Maggie cleaned up her room. And I'm sorry, I'm looking for my next symbol, but I'm not seeing my little moon shape. But Maggie has been getting fussed at all weekend about cleaning that room. And she will come up with any excuse. Like, do you remember being a kid and your parents would make you do something and you didn't want to do it, so you would come up with any excuse you could to not have to do it? That's Maggie right now. That's Maggie's current situation. Well, it was her current situation. All day Saturday, I told her it was really nice out. It was so nice out that I put on regular pants, okay? Like, not regular pants. I had on tights. Even my neighbor was shocked. Like, he was like, "Holy crap, you're not wearing sweatpants. I know it's going to be nice out today." And I'm like, exactly. So I went for a nice walk with the dogs, because it's been a while since I've been able to do that because it's been so cold. So I took the dogs on a walk, and I was like, "Oh, Maggie, it's going to be a great day today. You should get that room cleaned up so you can go outside and play." And usually we would just let her go outside and play. The problem is when she got back in the house, she wouldn't want to clean her room. So I'm like, "Now this time, we're going to make you clean your room before you go outside to play." And she goes, "Okay." And she would come down like every 10 minutes. "Mom, can I watch this?" "No, clean your room." "Mom, can I get lunch?" "You already had lunch. Go clean your room." "Mom, what time are dinner?" "Whenever I cook it. Go clean your room." "Mom, do you know what?" I'm like, "Maggie, do you know what? If you come out of that room one more time, I'm going to bite your legs off so you can't move." And she's like, "Ah!" So she runs back upstairs. And Mr. Coffee's like, "Why won't she just clean this freaking room?" I'm like, "I don't know, because it's really nice out." It was so nice outside that Orion was outside, okay? Orion opted to go outside by himself, play with the little neighborhood kids, because it was so nice outside. And so she's upset because she wants to go outside. And I'm like, "We want you to go outside. We also want you to go clean your room." What should have taken Maggie 30 minutes took Maggie over 15 hours, okay? Why? Because I would go in there and she'd be playing, or I'd go in there and she'd be asleep, or I'd go in there and she'd be watching something on TV. And so at some point, I ended up just turning the TV off, taking her electronics out, and going, "Clean your room." And all she had to do was throw stuff in the laundry basket and stuff. And I had already did the biggest part, which was taking the toys and putting them back nice and neatly in the closet. Literally, all she had to do was get her clothes, put them in the laundry basket, and make her bed. That's it. She also had to straighten up her bathroom because she kind of had stuff all over the place in her bathroom. But she didn't want to, so she did it. So then she spends all day upstairs whining because she can't go outside. And I'm like, "You could go outside if you just cleaned your freaking room. Like, how hard is it? Just go clean it." And she's like, "I don't want to clean it. I like it dirty." Well, you can like it dirty and you can sit in there all day with it dirty. And she did all day. And I don't feel bad about it because all she had to do was pick up the clothes. Like, I had already went in and cleaned up the toys, the worst part of it. She had trash and clothes. That's it. I forgot about the trash part because she did have some trash in there from... She likes to scribble on everything and then throw it all over the floor. So she had a couple of papers that she needed to throw in the trash and everything else. So she didn't get to go outside Saturday. Where everybody else was outside enjoying popsicles and everything else, she upstairs playing in her room because she refuses to clean it. And I'm like, well, this is going to be a battle of the wits, hun, because guess what? You ain't coming out of that room until you clean it. She came out long enough to eat breakfast, eat lunch, eat dinner, and then go right back up in there. And then what did she do after she ate dinner? She went right to sleep. And I'm like, I don't care. I feel bad because it was a really nice day. But then on the other hand, I'm like, no, you need to learn that you can't do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it without you having to do something that you don't want to do, like clean your room. And she's like, well, you don't clean your room. My room stays clean, partly because I'm never in there. Like, I don't have toys and stuff all over the floor in my room. You do, so you have to go clean your room. Don't worry about my room. Maggie's biggest thing right now, she worried about what everybody else doing. And Orion was coming up the stairs, and she looks at Orion. She goes, Orion's room ain't clean. He goes, don't mind my business. And he like walks away, and I'm like, Orion. He's like, what? Why is she always trying to tell on me? So I go looking at Ryan's room. Orion keeps his room pretty clean. And that's partly because if he doesn't, he can't play the VR. So he keeps his room clean because he has to, because he needs the space. And he's already learned once what happens when you don't clean your room up. He accidentally stepped on one of his other game controllers. And I'm guessing the joystick hit him right in the center of his foot. So he keeps his room pretty clean now. And I don't have to really worry about telling him to clean his room. Like, I can go and tell him, Orion, clean your room. He'll take 10 minutes, clean his room, and be done. No, Maggie's the only one that's in there that's got to play board games. She's got to write a whole novel on her life. She's got to sit up there and act out Phantom of the Opera. Like, she got to do the most right now. And I'm just like, well, then you're not going outside, ma'am. So Mr. Coffee was like, what are we going to do if she doesn't get outside today? And I'm like, then she doesn't get outside. Like, Mr. Coffee was really trying to, like, help her get outside. And I was like, if she cleans her room, she can go out. The problem is she needs to learn how to listen and clean her room. She didn't end up getting outside Saturday. So Sunday comes, and we told her again, finish cleaning the room, you can go outside. Takes her all of 5 minutes to clean the room, right? Okay, sorry about that. If you see me pause, that just means I probably have to go to the bathroom or something. I'm sorry. Anyways, so I'm sitting there. And Sunday comes, and like I said, it takes her all of 5 minutes to clean her room Sunday. And she goes, can I go outside? Now, Sunday, the weather wasn't as nice. And I don't know about anybody else, but I feel like North Dakota's Mother Nature needs a Newport 100 and some Midol. Because the way her life is set up, she hates us, okay? So Sunday wasn't as nice. It was a little bit cooler, which it wasn't too cool to the point where the kids couldn't go outside and play. Because they most certainly were outside playing. But Maggie decides, she's going to clean her room because she's going outside. So she decides she's going outside. She cleans her room up. She asks us to come up and inspect it. We inspect it. It's clean. For the most part, her bed still had a bunch of stuff on it, but she has a bunch of those Scentsy buddies. And so I'm like, I don't fault her for the bed because the Scentsy buddies kind of were just thrown all over the place. So I was like, all right, you can go outside. She, like, runs past me, slides down the stairs, goes and grabs her jacket and her shoes, and runs outside. Y'all, this girl was outside 10 minutes, and out of nowhere, Mr. Coffee gets ready to walk the dogs for, like, the 4 o'clock walk, and the kids are outside playing. Orion comes in because he said he thought he heard thunder, and I'm like, I don't think it's supposed to rain. I think it's supposed to just be cloudy today, dude. He goes, I heard it. I'm going upstairs. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, where's your sister? Now, I thought it would be a cool idea to get the kids walkie-talkies, okay? The kids have walkie-talkies now, so when they go outside, they don't have to run in and out asking me stupid questions. So I was like, where's your sister? And he goes, she's at the park, but I told her to come home because I heard thunder and she didn't want to. And I'm like, oh, great. Mr. Coffee's like, I'll go get her. Well, I put a video up on my Instagram of the hailstorm that came out of nowhere. Well, what didn't show was the fact that Maggie was outside. Maggie's like, I think it's about to snow. And she's talking to me on the walkie-talkie, and she's like, Mom, I think it's about to snow. And I'm like, why is that? And she goes, a piece of ice hit me. And I'm like, a piece of ice hit you? And at that moment, I'm sitting there, and I hear tink, tink. And I'm like, what the world is that? Tink, tink, tink. Wow, it must be coming down really hard outside. Like, I'm thinking it's rain. I go to open the door. It's ice. It's hail. Like, it's not very big. Like, it's like, I don't know, the size of a pea. But there's a ton of them. And literally, like, the grass was covered in the hail. The street was covered in hail. I'm like, it looked like static. It was coming down so hard. And I was like, what is going on? Maggie's just standing out there. And she's like, Mommy, it's snowing. That's not snow. That's hail. Get in the house. She's like, that's why it hurts? I'm like, yes, that's why it hurts. Why would you just stand out there? So she comes running back in the house. And I'm like, oh, dear sweet Lord. Orion's like, I told you it was thundering. I'm like, dude, there's no thunder. It's hail. What he heard was the hail hitting the metal slide that is over at the playground. They put in a new metal slide. And he heard that and thought it was thunder, so he came in. I'm like, at least you were smart enough to be scared and come in. Your sister's just standing out there like, hey, it's snowing. I'm like, Maggie, if you don't get your tail in this house. Even Killian and Daisy were running, trying to get back into the house because Mr. Coffee had only been outside for like 2 minutes before it started. And I'm like trying to get everybody in the house and get everybody dried off and everything. And Maggie's like, so when can I go back outside? I cleaned my room. This isn't fair. I'm like, well, if it hadn't taken you all day Saturday to clean your room, Missy, then you would have been able to go outside. She wasn't very happy with that. So she got to go play up in her room. And I'm like, I don't care. You have enough stuff in your room. Like, the thing that kills me the most is when my children tell me they're bored. And I sit there and think of all the money I've wasted on electronics and toys for them. Especially Maggie. Maggie has a bunch of, like, learning toys. Because after a certain point, I stopped buying her toys and started buying her all educational toys. So she has all kinds of toys up in her room that she can play with. But I think she's gotten smart to the fact that they're educational toys. And now she won't touch them. Now all of a sudden she don't play with toys. And I'm like, all right, then bet. So anyways. So that was our weekend essentially. Was the hailstorm that came out of nowhere. And Maggie cleaning her room. And Mother's Day, I just slept all day. Like, I was hella tired. I did have a doctor's appointment yesterday where I got poked and prodded. And they're doing tests and all this other stuff. And great news. I don't have to have iron infusions. I got a second opinion. Now, I go into the doctor's office yesterday and my doctor was not in. Like, she was, I guess, busy with another patient or she had an emergency she had to deal with. So I had to see another doctor. Now, I go in and I'm like, hi, I'm here to see Dr. Nikoloff, you know, blah, blah, blah. I love Dr. Nikoloff. She's like the best person ever. And yes, I think she's Russian. Mr. Coffee, like, as soon as I said her name, Mr. Coffee's like, oh, is she Russian? Mr. Coffee has an obsession with Russia. I don't know what his problem is. He loves the language, I think. So I'm sitting there, and they're like, Dr. Nikoloff had an emergency. Are you okay to see Dr. Barbara? Dr. Barbara actually specializes in anemia. And I'm like, well, if she specializes in it, then why not? And so I was like, yeah, sure, I'll see, Dr. Barbara. And I'm thinking Dr. Barbara is going to be a chick, right? Dr. Barbara. No, wrong. I'm sitting there waiting for the people to, because they got to leave you in that room to go absolutely insane while you wait for the doctor. And I always feel like that. I always feel like they put you in there as a psychological test to see how long they can put you in there before you snap out and start breaking stuff. So I'm sitting in there. And I'm looking at the pictures on the wall, of course, and I see all the, medical instruments and stuff, and I'm like, I always look around to make sure there's no needles just sitting out, because my biggest fear is I walk into a room, and they have needles sitting out, and they're like, we're ready for you. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, all right, let's get this over with. Let's see what they have in store for me today, because after going to urgent care, I was supposed to be making an appointment with my doctor, so that's what I did. So for those of y'all who wonder, Miss Coffee's taking care of herself, don't worry. So I'm sitting there, and Dr. Barbara, or her nurse, comes in, and she's like, hi, let's go over your records, and they're going through all my stuff, and they're like, so it looks like you're pretty healthy besides like this stuff going on. She goes, you know, is there a lot of stress at home? And I'm like, no, not really. Like, and that's the thing. Maggie is not stressful. It might sound like she's stressful, and sometimes she can be. But for the most part, like when it comes to like cleaning her room and stuff, no, that's not stressful. That's just kid stuff. Like, that's normal. But like, I'm like, no, my job has me a little stressed out, but I'm kind of getting over it, I think. And she's like, oh, you might need to find a new job if it's affecting you like this. I'm like, I know. And she's like, okay, let's take your blood pressure. Takes my blood pressure. My blood pressure's good. For some reason, they keep asking me, does diabetes run in my family? And I'm like, there's only been one known case of diabetes in my family. It was my Aunt Natalie. She passed away. She passed away a while ago. I was way little when my Aunt Natalie passed away. So I'm like, she was the only person I know in my family that has diabetes. And then I went, oh, never mind. My mom has diabetes. And they go, oh, okay. I'm like, oh, never mind. That's not my mom. And they're like, hold on, what? And I'm like, my stepmom, she's taken care of me my whole life, but she has diabetes. She got what we call the sugar. And they're like, oh yeah, if she's not blood, then that doesn't count. So I'm like, yeah, no, then it's only just my Aunt Natalie. And they're running tests, and they're looking at my blood results from last time I went to the ER, or when I went to the urgent care last week, and they're looking at my blood results, and they're like, you know, well, you don't have diabetes. And I'm like, could it have been because I brushed my teeth before I came in here? Because apparently that's the first thing my dad said when they asked me if I had diabetes. He goes, well, you know, did you tell her not to brush her teeth beforehand? Because the levels because whenever stuff happens like medical, I always, of course, go to my dad. Because if you didn't know, my dad's an old-timey doctor. So like anything medical, I go to him for a better understanding of what's going on. And he goes, well, if you brushed your teeth and rinsed your mouth out, you know, that's all that stuff has sugar in it. So that probably could be why your glucose had been a little high. And I'm like, I don't think that would have caused it. And sure enough, that's what the doctor said yesterday. He goes, yeah, if you use, you know, toothpaste and mouthwash before that visit and you hadn't eaten anything, that could have been why your sugars were a little high. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm sitting in there. The nurse is finished doing her preliminary work, and she goes, okay, Dr. Barbara's going to be in with you shortly. And I'm like, okay. And they always say shortly, and I'm thinking, you mean in the next 4 hours? All right, bet. And it's not like there's anything to entertain you in there. Like, it's not like the waiting room where why does every doctor's office waiting room always have either one of two things on? Old Westerns or old soap operas, okay? So I'm sitting there in the waiting room. I at least got to watch, like, Young and the Restless. When I'm in the actual, like, office area in my room, so to say, you can't watch anything because there's no TV in there. So I'm just sitting in there, like, looking at the pictures on the wall and touching stuff I shouldn't be touching because I'm a giant kid. Well, then I hear a knock at the door, and of course I go scurry back to my seat, and I'm like, come in. And I hear this big burly voice, and he's like, are you Alishia? Oh God. Yeah. I think you have the wrong room though, because I'm waiting for Dr. Barbara. This tall, dark drink of water comes in, and I'm like, oh, good God. Hi. And he's like, hi, I'm Dr. Barbara. I'm like, I'm sorry, say what? Look, this guy, this is one of those guys, okay? This guy was all, when they say tall, dark, and handsome, this is the guy that they're describing, okay? I don't know if he was like Puerto Rican or what his nationality was, but I don't know. It seemed like it was some kind of Spanish because he had a little bit of an accent, and it seemed like it was a little bit of Spanish or something. And he's just like, hi, I'm Dr. Barbara. You know, I'm coming to see you today about your anemia. And I'm like, like, shut my mouth wide open. I was like, oh, good God. And, and he's like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm not going to lie. I thought, he's like, I was a woman. I get that a lot because, you know, Barbara. I'm like, is your last name really Barbara? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, I would say that sucks, but yeah, that really sucks. And he's like, yeah. So, he comes in and he's talking to me, and I was letting him know what the the urgent care doctor told me, and I told them, you know, I really want a second opinion because I don't feel, where I do feel exhausted a lot of the time. And they give you that questionnaire. And it's funny, going back to the questionnaire real quick. When the nurse comes in, before the doctor comes in, they give you this questionnaire. And I don't know if they do it at everybody's hospital, but at our hospital, they do this. Where you get this questionnaire, and in the questionnaire, it asks you, do you feel safe at home? Are you sad? Have you ever had to make the decision this week or last week on buying food or paying bills? And I'm like, I don't know about you, but if I don't have no food in my house, the last thing I'm going to be doing is debating whether I need to be paying a bill. Forget that bill. That bill will be there when I'm done eating, okay? Like, no, I'm not, no. And, like, they ask you all these weird questions, like this questionnaire, and I get through it, and I told the lady, I'm like, do you have a tissue or something? My nose has been acting up today. My nose was so dry that it was starting to bleed a little bit before I left the house, because the weather change is drying out my sinuses. And so she's sitting there reading off the questions to me, and she literally, I'm not even joking you, as soon as she gets to the, do you feel safe at home? My nose starts to bleed, okay? It looks like, she looks over at me, my nose is bleeding, and I'm like, yeah, I feel safe at home. She's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, your nose is bleeding. I'm like, oh my God, the weather. It's the weather, I promise. Like, how awkward is that? And she's like looking at me like, you sure you're okay? I'm like, I'm fine, I promise. I'm like, I literally had a little bit of a nosebleed before I left the house, and the air is just really dry in here, and my nose and sinuses are acting up. I haven't had a nosebleed in years, okay? I'm talking about at least a decade. And of course, the one time I do is when somebody's asking me if I feel safe at home. And I'm like, yeah, no Amber Heard happening at my house. And she's just like, oh, okay. Hold up, you're the lady that comes in. And she looks at me, she goes, you're the lady that comes in. Her husband always says that his wife tells him that he feels safe at home. I'm like, that's Jordan. Mr. Coffee's known at the hospital, one, because he goes often for his back stuff, and, you know, he gets hurt often. And two, because he always tells them, my wife tells me I feel safe at home. And I'm like, one of these times, one of those doctors isn't going to think that's funny, and they're going to come arrest me. And he's like, I just want the abuse to stop. I'm like, shut up. So, yeah, so there's that. But I was talking to the doctor, Barbara, and he was telling me that, he's like, we're going to, check your iron levels. I don't need to stick you anymore with needles because if you're anemic, the last thing we want to keep doing is drawing blood. Obviously, you don't have enough of it as it is, so there's no point to keep drawing blood. And I'm like, see, I already like you. I already like you because you get it. Like, my one thought was every time I go in to have, like, any kind of test done, they always want to draw blood. And they know I'm anemic, but they want to draw blood. And if you don't know what anemia is, it's when you have an iron, it's kind of like an iron deficiency. So they know I'm anemic, but yet they want to keep taking my blood. And I'm like, stop drawing blood. And so he was like, I'm not going to draw blood. I'm just going to prick your finger a little bit. I'm like, oh, I don't know what's worse, the pricking of the finger or getting my blood drawn. Either way, it sucks. He goes, I know, but you'll be all right. So he grabs my hand, he pricks my finger, he does a little test, and he goes, your iron isn't low. And he looks at my chart, and he looks back at the little meter thing that tells him what my iron is. He goes, does your iron usually fluctuate like this? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't check it. Like, I don't have a fadangled machine at home that checks my iron. I could probably buy something like that off Amazon, though, can't I? I probably could. Anyways, so I was like, yeah, sure. No, I don't know. And he's like, okay, so let's ask you some questions. I'm like, okay. And he goes, do you have regular periods? And I'm like, what? First question out of his mouth, do you have regular periods? And I'm like, no. He goes, well, that could be a reason why, you're a little bit anemic. I'm like, I don't even have a uterus. And he kind of looks at me at first, and he's like, hold up, what? I'm like, oh yeah, I had a hysterectomy last November. I haven't had a period since November last year. And he's like, oh, okay, so it can't be that. I'm like, no, it can't be that. Like, he thought he was getting the easy way out. Nay. No, that can't be it, because I don't even have a uterus for it to malfunction. So, no, it's not that. And he goes, did they take it because of your anemia? I'm like, that's part of it. I let them know that I wouldn't be using it anymore, and they can just kick it into traffic. So essentially, that's what they did. And he's like, oh, okay. So if it's not that, he goes, do you eat regularly? And I'm like, no. Okay, so I don't know why I do this. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person that has a weird eating schedule. But ever since I've been an adult, right? One, I don't eat 3 meals a day. I have not ever eaten 3 meals a day. Not since I was a kid. I eat once a day. One time. That's it. I'm not hungry. And I feel like if I force myself to eat when I'm not hungry, that's just going to make me want to eat all the time. And I'm like, I'm not about that life. So he was like, what time of day do you usually eat? I'm like, I eat dinner. So I won't eat breakfast. I won't eat lunch. I will eat dinner. I have a meal replacement that I drink in the morning / afternoon so that I, am at least getting something in my system. But I don't eat breakfast and lunch. And he's like, well, you got to start eating more. Does it look like I'm missing a meal, sir? Do you see me? I'm a whole goddamn snack over here, okay? I'm not missing a meal, okay? I'm a big girl. And he's like, you've lost a few pounds since the last time you were seen at the emergency room last week. I'm like, I don't think that's an issue. Like, me losing weight's a problem now? Like, no, look, listen, I needed to lose a couple of pounds. And I'm like, the reason I'm losing weight is because I'm starting to get more active. And I'm like, I've been quarantined for 2 years now. Like, literally will not leave my house unless it's absolutely necessary. And so now that it's getting warmer out, I've been out, like, getting active. And he goes, oh, okay. He goes, but your iron could be low because you're not getting enough food in your system. And he's like, I'm like, well, that's the thing. The Huel that I drink, which is the meal replacement stuff, I'm like, it has a lot of nutrients and stuff like that. He goes, yeah, but not as much as if you were to say eat an egg in the morning, like an egg and toast, and then for lunch maybe have like a turkey sandwich. And I'm like, see, you asking me to eat a lot of food. The problem is, if I eat breakfast, I won't want to eat dinner. If I eat lunch, I won't want to eat dinner. If I eat dinner, I don't want to eat anything else for the rest of the day. I'm good. I'm straight. Like, I'm not sitting here with my stomach growling or anything. I just have a weird eating schedule. And he's like, well, you got to find a way to either eat more at night or eat little meals during the day. And I'm like, it's not like the meal I have at dinner is like this whomping meal. It's not. And so we're talking back and forth about like nutrition and how much food I should be intaking and all this. And I'm like, do you see I'm not like heavy. Like I have a chubby face, which I've always had a chubby face. I've had a double chin since I was born. Okay. Like these are things that I know about myself and I have accepted. And I'm just like, it is what it is at this point. Like I've given up the whole face battle. Like the rest of me, I'm 6'1", so it's like a Stretch Armstrong where all my weight is evenly distributed throughout my body, minus there's a little bit more in the center than there is like in the arms and stuff. And so he is like telling me things that I should do to what letter am I gonna do next? Let's go with this weird. Oh, that drill just moved. If you can't tell, I am very determined to get this canvas done. I don't care how I'm feeling. I will get this canvas done. I want to see this done. So y'all are going to have to bear with me and look at this for a while because I really want to get this canvas done. Anyways, so we were going over meal plans and everything else and what I should and shouldn't do. And he was like, you want to talk to a nutritionist? And I'm like, not really. I don't know why I need to talk to a nutritionist. So let's see, what number is this? 8:20. Okay, good. So I finished my doctor's appointment with being put on 2 different meds to help clear up the ulcer and the infections and being told that I do not need an iron infusion. So I don't need an iron infusion because they were like, it's a temporary fix. It's not like something that is going to essentially fix immediately what's going on with you. He goes, there's no quick cure for anemia. He goes, where it will help a little bit, it's not going to help for the long run. And you're going to have to keep doing that religiously for the next, however long, for every 3 months. He goes, I don't want you to have to go through that, especially since you don't like needles. And I'm like, thank you. I really appreciate that. This is why I love this doctor. He is now my new doctor. And he's like, so we're going to put you on some really high dose iron pills. And I'm like, okay. So that is what they did. They put me on a higher dose of iron pill. And today is, I started taking them yesterday because I went yesterday morning to my doctor's appointment. Started taking the pills yesterday, and I feel a lot better today than I did yesterday or the day before. So I feel like the medication is actually starting to work this time. My stomach has stopped bothering me, which is great because I was dealing with a lot of cramping because of my ulcers and stuff. And so looks like I might be on the mend, which is great. I still get a little drowsy. I had no trouble going to sleep last night, like none at all. So I'm just like, well, at least things are starting to look up. So I'm pretty excited about that. So I'm going to take a break real quick. Hold on. All right. So there you go. Health update. Miss Coffee is doing better. I'm feeling a little bit better. I'm still a little groggy in my head, but that just could be because I have a lot going on up there. I usually do. Anyways, so let's talk more about the kids. So again, the kids will be doing stuff this summer. I'm super excited to get them signed up to do things. Because one, Orion never lets me sign him up to do anything. We've been trying to sign this kid up for soccer and for swim class for the longest time, and he would not let me do it. And now he's finally like, okay, I'll sign up for it, I guess. So he's going to let us sign him up for that. We're also trying to plan out what we want to get done with the kids this summer. This summer, I want to take more adventures with the kids so I can bring more vlogs to the channel. I love doing vlogs. I don't know what it is about doing a vlog, but I love doing vlogs. And you guys seem to like them too. Usually I only do them for Patreon, but I don't mind if we go out hiking somewhere, which again is one of my favorite things to do when I'm outside, as I love going hiking. But I want to be able to go hiking again this summer, but we want to, of course, when we ask the kids where they wanted to, is there anywhere in particular that they want to go this year, blah, blah, blah. And they want to, of course, go to the Badlands because they want to see the buffaloes. So we, of course, will be going to the north and south unit of the Badlands here in North Dakota. But we wanted to find some other stuff to do as well besides just going to the Badlands. And the problem is we can only usually do things like that on the weekends because Mr. Coffee's work schedule. And with him just having off for a week because of them, literally for those folks who didn't know, even though we had power here at the house, right? Mr. Coffee's job is on the outskirts of town. Literally, here's the welcome to Williston sign. Here's Mr. Coffee's job. So he's on the outskirts of town. They just got power back last Thursday. So they were without power for almost 2 weeks at his job. He would still go in during the day while it was sunlight. And luckily, we're starting to get into our summer sun. And if you're new to my channel and you don't know what that means, here in North Dakota, it does not get dark. The sun does not go down until about 11 o'clock at night in the summer. We have very long summers. So, which I guess is about to change, because from what I heard, which if I'm wrong, somebody correct me in the comment section. From what I heard, they're supposed to be stopping the time zone changes. We're not supposed to be doing daylight savings time anymore. So that we'll do one more in the fall, and then we won't be doing them anymore. And I'm like, oh, please let that happen, because there's nothing worse than trying to put your children to bed while the sun is belting them in the eyes, okay? So I'm like, please let that be a thing. But I've heard it from quite a few people that they're supposed to be stopping daylight savings time. And I'm like, oh gosh, that would be wonderful. Awesome. Great. Love it. I love this idea. When I was in Pennsylvania, I didn't mind it too much because then it was a matter of 1 or 2 hours that it would get dark. But here in North Dakota, in the fall, the sun goes down at 4 o'clock. Okay. But in the summer, it doesn't go down until 11. Literally, and I post about it every year. So if you're on my Instagram, you'll start to see pictures of it being bright as hell outside at 11 o'clock. Right now, the sun tends to go down at about 9:30, 10 o'clock. And it's like the weirdest thing. And it's one of the things that whenever people come to visit, they have to get used to, is the fact that it stays so bright at night. And it's funny because my parents are in the same time zone as me, where they live in Alabama. So when I was been talking to my dad the last couple of nights, and I said something about Maggie being outside, he goes, "What's she doing outside? It's pitch black out." And I'm like, "Where you're at, it's pitch black out. Where I'm at, it's still bright as all get out. Like, the sun is just starting to go down." It's the weirdest thing. So I'm hoping that they do stop daylight savings time. But yeah, so I'm excited to sign the kids up for stuff and figure out what we're going to do for the summer. And like I said, we can only do like hiking trips and stuff like that while Mr. Coffee's off, which is the weekends, which is great because that gives me the week to, take the kids to swim class or take Orion to soccer practice or whatever. And he's been talking about wanting to do soccer for the longest time, so he's super excited about the summer. Maggie's excited because she just wants to go outside and play with her friends. We had some new people move into the neighborhood last week. And they have 2 kids that are Maggie's age, so she's super excited. She has some new friends to play with because the friends that she were playing with were a bunch of buttholes. And she got into a fight with the one girl yesterday, actually. I guess they were outside playing at the playground, and the little girl bit Maggie. And Maggie got mad because she's like, "Why are you biting me?" And the girl told her, "I don't like you." And so Maggie decides that she's going to grab the girl's face and bite her in the face and then tell her that I don't like you either. And I'm like, 1, why are you putting your mouth on people? People are dirty. Like, don't put your mouth on people. 2, you are not a cannibal man. Why are you biting people? Because, of course, the little girl bit Maggie, didn't tell her. No, Maggie didn't go tell her mom. But the moment that Maggie bit her, here this girl come to me talking about, "Your daughter bit me." What'd you do to her? Maggie doesn't just... I know Maggie well enough that Maggie's not going to just go up and bite somebody. So I'm like, "What did you do to her?" And she's like, "I didn't do anything." So Maggie comes over with this big bite mark on her arm, and she goes, "She bit me." And I'm like, "So you bit my kid and then got mad because she's like, 'She bit me first.'" And I'm like, "Let's review the tape, shall we?" And the little girl goes, "What do you mean? I have a Ring doorbell. So if you did bite my child first, the doorbell will show it." Well, as soon as I say that, the little girl takes off. And I'm like, "Oh, no, no, no." So I take my phone and I go walk over to the girl's house and I knock on the door. And of course, her mom likes to avoid me because she gets tired of me coming to her house telling her to keep her daughter away from my kid, because every time they get together, they fight. So I go knock on the door, knock on the door, knock on the door, knock on the door. I wait till I see the little girl going in the house. Or the dad came to call the little girl to come in for dinner. And I run over there and I'm like, "Hi, it's me again. It looks like your daughter had a problem with keeping her hands to herself again." And he goes, "What did she do this time?" I'm like, "She bit my kid and then got the nerve to come tell me because my daughter bit her." He goes, "Hold up, what?" He's like, "I don't believe she would do that." And I'm like, "Oh no, let's review the tape, shall we?" So I pull out my phone and I show him and I'm like, "Yeah, see, if you can see right here, we're just going to pause the tape. We're going to zoom in. This is your kid, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Is she not making contact with her mouth on my daughter's arm?" "Yeah." "So you saying that you can't believe your daughter would do something, I'm giving you physical proof or visual proof that your daughter just bit my kid. And then here's my daughter biting your kid back." "Well, why'd she bite her in the face?" "Why's your daughter biting people at all? Like, you're lucky she didn't Mike Tyson her and rip her ear off. Like, your kid out here biting people. Like, what the hell?" And he's like, "I'll talk to her." "No, you won't. We'll be doing the same crap today." Like, I know as soon as Maggie gets home today, she's going to go outside. The little girl's... And the sad part is, Maggie doesn't even go play with this little girl. The little girl comes over to play with Maggie and then picks fights with her. And I'm like, you don't know the way Maggie's life is set up. The only reason why she hasn't cold clocked you in the face is because I've been telling her to not touch you. I'm like, but if you keep trying her, I can't be responsible if she hits you because you're the one calling for it. Like, she just won't leave Maggie alone, and I don't understand why. Even had Orion out there, and Orion had to tell the little girl to go home because she wouldn't leave Maggie alone. And we don't know why she targets Maggie, but she always does. And then there's some little boys that come out, and the little boys, they used to mess with Maggie until they met Maggie's mom. Now they won't mess with Maggie because them and their mama don't want no parts of Miss Coffee. So I'm just like, yeah, y'all stay on your side and we'll stay on our side. And as long as your sons keep their mouth closed, we don't have no problems. So Maggie is learning, essentially Maggie's sticking up for herself. Orion's been out there to help her because I've been like, you know, just keep an eye on her so that she's not out there murdering people's children. But I'm hoping that today that she can go outside and play peacefully, because it's complete bullcrap that she can't. Then at the school, they're doing something called the color run. And if I remember correctly, that's something they used to do in State College when I lived in Pennsylvania. I think it's like something to do with cancer, I want to say. And they throw like powder color at you. And I tell Maggie this because they sent home a letter saying, you know, if your daughter wants to participate, you have to bring $5. And I'm like, $5? I can get some cornstarch and color it and throw it at her all day for free. I'm just saying, why you need $5? And she's like, what's the donation to the charity? And I'm like, oh, okay. I thought you just were like, the school needs $5. About to say, y'all don't need no money. What you doing with it? You ain't doing nothing with it. So yeah, so I tell Maggie that they're doing this color run and ask her if she wants to participate. And she's like, no. I'm like, well, I'm still going to donate the $5. Well, I donate the $5 to the school, and now they're saying that she can run. And if she does decide to participate, she gets out of school early. And I'm like, out of school early, you say? Anytime I can get my kids out of school early without getting in trouble, look, listen, girl, you better let them go throw stuff at you. So I don't know if I can talk her into participating, because all she has to do is run. But the way Maggie's life is set up, unless she's running outside with her friends, she don't want to run. And I'm like, you will be outside with your friends. She goes, I don't even like anybody in my class. And I'm like, oh my God, Maggie. So yeah, Maggie's being her normal self. Orion just finished up his, I think, second or third presentation. So Orion's doing some extra credit work at school because he started falling a little bit behind in his social studies. And there's this program that he really wants to do next year, but you have to get selected to do this program. And one of the key factors in being selected is having really good grades. Well, Orion's always been top of his class until he started like showing signs of like getting bored at school and not doing his work. Well, he started picking up and doing his work when he found out that the program that he wants to do is accepting new people. But they're only accepting 90 students. So he has to make himself stand out amongst those 90 students. So he's been doing extra studying. He just finished a project where he had to do a whole presentation of Uruguay. And it took me forever to get him to say it correctly, because I don't know what he was trying to say, but it was not Uruguay. We got "you are gay," or what was the other word he said? Uruguay. And I'm like, Uruguay. You're gay? No, not you're gay. Uruguay. He goes, guava? I'm like, that's not even anywhere close to what I said. Took us about 45 minutes to get him to say Uruguay. He finally says it. He's like, I have presentation in the morning, so I'm going to go to bed early. And I'm like, all right. So he did his presentation yesterday. He got an A+ on his presentation, so he was super excited. So I'm really proud of him. What's under my canvas making it stick up like the steak? Why ain't nothing under there? Stop that. But so I'm like really proud of him, because he's trying to work really hard so that he gets selected for this program. And this program essentially, how do I explain this? It's an innovation academy. So they learn all about science and technology and how the inner workings of things work, which is right up Orion's alley. Like Orion we bought Orion a cell phone for his birthday, or not for his birthday, for Christmas. 2-3 years ago? I want to say it's 2 years ago. He took the phone apart so he could see how it works on the inside. So this type of like program would be right up his alley. So he's super excited to try to get in. So you guys cross your fingers for poor little Orion, because he's doing his damnedest to get into this little program. And I really hope he gets in. And he already qualified to have his name put in for the drawing for it. He just has to hope that he can keep his grades up for the rest of the year. And I'm like, dude, you have like 2 weeks left. Like, if you need help. And his teacher already told him, if you want a little extra help, you can stay after school. But the way Orion's life is set up, that's cutting into game time, okay? Like, he ain't trying, like, he's like, I want to go to the school, but I ain't trying to cut into my game time. So, like, he hasn't taken the teacher up on her offer to stay later. but he has started doing like a lot of studying at home and reading up and going over previous assignments and stuff like that. So he's trying really hard, and I really hope he gets in. He's going to be heartbroken if he doesn't, but it'll be one of those life lessons that, you know, teaches him to work a little bit harder. And I don't want to ever make him feel like if he's working hard that it's not good enough. All right, hold on a second. Those goddamn walkie-talkies. Okay, so I told you that I got the kids walkie-talkies. Well, we're finding that the walkie-talkies keep picking up different, like, truckers and stuff that are close to the house. And last night, it picked up a police call, which I'm like, aren't police, like, walkie-talkies on a different frequency or something? And I changed it because we kept picking up the neighbor, his radio in his truck. And so we changed the frequency, and somehow we picked up the police station. So the phone or the walkie-talkie just turned into a scanner at this point. And I'm like, what is happening with these walkie-talkies? Like, I don't know nothing about walkie-talkies, okay? The only walkie-talkie I know is when I was little, we used to do the can one, where you get the tin can and the string. Those are the walkie-talkies I know. I don't know nothing about no walkie-talkie. So the fact that it keeps going off and I keep hearing weird men's voices in my house that's freaking me out when I'm here by myself. Look, listen, I done turned all those walkie-talkies off. But they're great for when the kids go out. They have lanyards on them so that they can wear them around their neck. And then anytime, instead of me having to get off the couch every 30 seconds that they have a question, I can just walkie them and talk to them. But the problem is we just got to make sure that it's on a frequency that there's no like truckers or police officers or anything else are on. Because I can see a police officer going to a call and then hearing Maggie, can I get a popsicle? Like, yeah, we need to figure out something with these walkie-talkies. I told Mr. Coffee to check it out because he would know better than I would. He's a technology whiz. I'm not. So there's that. But Mr. Coffee's also doing well. He's been doing really good. Like he cooked Mother's Day dinner. We had he made baked chicken and string beans and mashed potatoes and gravy and mac and cheese. And it was so good. And I told him, I'm like, I don't need anything like massively huge. I'm not going to eat anything if you make too much food. But one thing I did want to teach him how to make, because I've been trying to teach him how to make things so that, you know, he can make more than just like hobo meal and tamale pie. And so I told him, I'm like, tomorrow I'm going to teach you how to make sweet potato mush. Now, if you don't know what sweet potato mush is, it's essentially like mashed potatoes in sweet potato form. And you use like cinnamon and sugar and all kinds of things. And it's sweet. It's kind of like, my mom used to call it sweet potato casserole, because then you also can use like little marshmallows on it, and you can put like walnuts in it. It's really good. And I was like, I think it's something the kids would like, and sweet potatoes are good for like iron and stuff. So I was like, I'm going to teach you how to make sweet potato mush. So I didn't get a chance to teach him, though, because I forgot that I promised Orion yesterday that we would eat outdoor food, because we didn't go to the restaurant he wanted the other on Friday. And we didn't do it Sunday either because of being Mother's Day. So I was like, on Monday we'll eat at the restaurant you want to eat at. So he got to have Applebee's yesterday. He was so excited. He loves their flavored lemonades. So yeah, so everybody's doing good. I'll get better eventually. It's just going to take some time. The whole depression thing, like, depression, it comes and goes in waves. I like look back at my life and I feel stupid for having depression, because I'm like, I have been very blessed to have a lot of the things that I do have, and I don't understand how I could be depressed about it. And it's not depression like, you know, I have a lot of stuff, but I'm still sad because I want more. I think it's just stress, and the stress aspect of it essentially is going away. And like, one, thank you to everybody who showed love to the Procreate video I put up yesterday. I was really nervous about putting that up because I know it's not like at all my usual, but again, I want to venture out into other things. Diamond painting isn't the be all end all only craft on the planet. So like, I want to venture out to other things. And I think that's been the majority of my stress has been the fact that I've been a fanatic for diamond painting for 4 years now. And now that I'm not a fanatic for it, like, I want to show like all the things. of course, I will still show diamond paintings and still work on them if I feel like it, but I want to show all the things. So that's what I'm going to do. But I just wasn't sure how it would be received. So it was stressing me out because of it being unknown. Now I just don't care. You either watch it or you don't. If you don't, if obviously creators tell people all the time, if you don't like something you see, then don't watch it. And that goes for content as well. If I'm putting out content that you obviously don't want to see, then you just don't have to watch it. And it's been great because I was waiting for somebody to have some kind of snarky comment about it, and nobody did. And so I'm like, I don't even know why I'm letting it bother me so much. Because, again, those who want to watch will watch. Those who don't, won't. And I would rather them not watch than leave a nasty comment in the comment section. So I really shouldn't be too stressed out about it. And I'm excited because after I finish here, I have counseling. And I love going to counseling because it always helps to get a little bit of a different set of eyes on any situation you're going through. And so because I let my counselor know that I am struggling a little bit mentally, that I need a little bit of help, she scheduled me in for an extra appointment. So this week I'll have 2 appointments instead of just 1. Again, take care of your mental health. It's just as important as taking care of your physical health. And so I'm super excited to see her an extra time. And I can't tell you how much therapy has just been like the best thing lately. So I'm excited for that. I'm right now I'm just trying to hurry up and get through the last couple of weeks of school. I cannot wait for summer to start. I'm going to try to make it where it's a fun summer and the kids aren't dwelling too much because Orion's really been missing his sister, and we told him, she won't be able to come visit this year, just because it's going to cost us about $8,000 just to go get her and bring her back. And that's flying because Minna gets really bad motion sickness now, apparently. So she can't sit in the car, and I really don't want Mr. Coffee sitting in the car. He hasn't had a major back issue in a while, and I don't want him sitting in the car getting his back all torn up to go pick her up and then have to take her back a month later. So we were talking about flying her out, and since she can't fly by herself, she's only 15. Well, she could, but her father would never go for that. So somebody would have to go meet her at the airport, bring her back here, and vice versa on the way back. Me, the kids, and the dogs and stuff would stay here because we can't just, leave the house and, whatever. So me and the kids and stuff would stay here while Mr. Coffee would go get her. The problem is he would have to take a direct flight to go get her, then come back, and then do it again in a month. And I'm like, yeah, no, we can't. $8,000, $8,000. I'm like, we would be broke all summer just for her, just to say that she came up here. No, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to mess up her summer, and especially when I can do stuff with the little ones and we can still call and talk to her. Plus, she likes to go camping and kayaking with her friends over the summer, which is something that we can't do here. One, you'd have to have a body of water to go kayaking and stuff in. So she won't be coming up this summer, and we want to keep the kids distracted and upbeat about the fact that she can't come visit. So we're trying to find some activities to keep their mind busy. And we're planning a couple of trips out of state. I'm hoping that it goes like we plan so that we can go see Yellowstone. We want to go see Yellowstone this year. The problem is if Mr. Coffee can get that many days off work, because we would stay like a day or 2 and then come back. So, yeah, as long as his job doesn't get hellaciously busy over the summer, it might be something we get to do. So, yeah. Anyways, I think that's it for me today. That's enough rambling, and I need to get up and do some stretching because I'm getting tired. So, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. We got a bit done. We got a little bit done. I'm going to try to finish this section today. Keyword try. I'm tired. I'm going to go take a nap and then I'm going to come back to it, okay? But with that said, folks, thank you so much again for watching. Thank you for listening to my random rambles from the Coffee House Shenanigans. I hope you're all doing well, and we will see you guys in the next one. Bye!